Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Everyday Data, where we examine currently trending topics in data, analytics, and AI, and how they are shaping our everyday lives. We're your hosts, Patricia and Zach. We are recent graduates of NYU's MSB AI program, and we're data and pop culture enthusiasts. And today, we're going to be tackling everyone's favorite trending topic in AI development, and that's AI agents. We all know this. The AI landscape is constantly changing every single day. And the conversation I think that's happening in every boardroom right now is literally how do we integrate AI agents to scale efficiency? I know that's the conversation happening in my company basically every day. So we're here to talk about it. What are agents? Why do they matter? And how are they going to impact our work? So off to you, Zach. Why don't you introduce us to our story for this week?
So on the topic of agents, it is, yes, as you said, very, very relevant. It is the next evolution of AI and LLMs, large language models. And there's been so many announcements, so many companies coming out with agents. But the biggest news of the past couple of days is GitHub. So if you're in the software world, everyone knows GitHub. It is a ubiquitous tool that you use for version control in every developer. So if you're in software or even software adjacent, you use a GitHub. And at the latest GitHub Universe, which is their annual conference, they announced Agent HQ. So this is honestly pretty mind blowing because again, GitHub is also owned by Microsoft. So huge backing in the tech community, ubiquitous tool in the tech community, and they are all in on agents. So for the while now, again, developers, AI features have been integrated in GitHub in the software development environment, the SDE. So inside your VS Code, you've got GitHub Copilot built in. And now with Agent HQ, it's really, the next step of workflow, specifically for developers to integrate agents. So those menial tasks when you set up a new project, setting up all the different types of files, the different structure, the folders, spinning up databases, these tasks that you couldn't really use LLMs for. You did a lot of code writing because also with code, the blocks are very similar. You're reusing different components when you're building standard kind of software packages. But now with agents, it's the ability to say, I want to build a CRUD, a create, read, update, delete database application. So I need maybe a virtual computer. I need a database. I need to spin up a couple servers. I need a couple different file types. I need my normal base files. I need this structure that every project, or at least the AI LM, will understand what I might need. And then the agent just goes off and does it. So it is, I think, a real force multiplier for tasks really in the software world. But Patricia, as you were saying, it's not just software. So while I'm super excited about this because I think it's a perfect application of agents, and in my mind, I can see where this is going, the use cases, and it's just kind of like a no brainer from building structured software. But you also mentioned that it's coming to other companies, right, Patricia?
Yeah, like I have been hearing talk of AI agents in beyond software, obviously very large in the startup space right now. Like
Yeah.
I went to a startup, I went to like a startup incubator thingy like last month, and every single what they do is each startup kind of pitches the work that they're doing, the purpose of their company, and every single startup was talking about how they were using AI
Yeah.
agents and agentic AI. And it was really interesting because I think a lot of the individuals in the room, there was a lot of people who were very tech focused, but then there were some that were just not very like knowledgeable on what's happening in tech, really caring that much about software. Obviously, they're interested in the startup world and they want to understand a little bit more about this. And they were like, well, yeah, we don't understand what AI agents mean. And I think like the thing with an agent is when you think of just the word agent, people think of like customer service or like travel agents. And so like I think just the wordplay there, I've noticed that I just in conversations with individual like other business professionals, those who aren't really in the software space, who don't really understand the impact of AI agents, they don't really even realize how big an AI agent is. Like, this isn't just virtual assistants that are using AI. Like, it's not just making the chatbot on your website better through AI. It's literally adding in things like reasoning, logic, the ability to imagine, instead of you constantly prompting your chat GPT to uh, edit the work that it's done for you, or you're reviewing the work and you're like, you know what, there's whatever you've output for me, you can change by adding this tone to it, this voice to it. I want you to make these changes to it. Imagine your chat GPT is prompting itself to evaluate its own work and thinking how it can make itself better, and then producing an output for you. Like, that is how agentic AI is taking AI to the next level. And I think it's interesting to see just the conversations that are happening outside of the tech space. And my company is doing this really large project right now where we're trying to see where we can apply agentic AI. And it's like, I think we've kind of gone through a rabbit hole of just looking at all the problems that we have, and we haven't really even thought about like, what is a true agentic AI problem that AI agents can support and solve and do any work with. Like, we've kind of just like, this is what happens when you're like looking at how projects can go. It looks like every single problem that comes up, you end up thinking like, oh, can this one solution that we're looking at solve all the solutions? And I think there was an interview with the co-founder of OpenAI. I forget, it's not Sam Altman, it's like this other guy, I forget his name. But he was talking about how like AI agents, like true AI agents, he thinks that they're still 10 years away. So it's interesting to see the kind of conversations that are happening now about like what we think AI agents can do. First of all, people even think AI agents are, what we think they can do, what they can actually do, and then like, in the future, what they probably will be able to do. So that's kind of how I'm seeing it on my side. But what about you, Zach? Like, how are you seeing AI agents come to life, like either at work or through conversations?
And I completely agree with everything you said. That on the one hand, yeah, you have the people that are, the AI buzzword. That's, the news headlines you see is taking over. And he said everything looks like a nail when your hammer is AI, right? Like AI can solve
Yeah.
everything. But yes, for me too, in higher education, well, okay, with the coding that I do, I see the promise there. But for the broader like higher education, are you using an agent in your everyday? But like you said, I think that's a really good point, that I think people don't realize that the current version of GPT-5 already is agentic in a way. Because, yeah, so if you don't know, and if you haven't delved into what your LLM is actually doing, when you prompt, it's actually calling different models. So if you ask a science question, it's calling a science expert right now. If you're asking a health question, it's calling a health expert. And I read, I think it was on the blog for the release notes for GPT-5, future models are going to integrate this, but kind of like, again, the bridge that they're doing is agents, and having this orchestrator agent that understands the question, so you don't have to do complex prompting anymore. You just give it a simple prompt. The AI, like you said, the great example, it's prompting itself. It's saying, okay, let me understand the user's intent. And you can see this if you look at the reasoning in GPT-5 or any of the LMs, and then it's calling these agents. So you're already using it. But then, like you said, what am I, like a higher education, what's a professor using an agent for, really? Maybe that's not the use case. There's some trials, system wide at SUNY. They're testing what's the best use case for AI. Like, again, tutoring is kind of the easy thing that comes to mind, right? Like, if you're a student taking a class, and this is maybe RAG, retrieve, augmented generation, where you have kind of a knowledge base, and the AI just talks to its knowledge, so it only looks at the teacher's notes, the textbook, and uses that as context, versus let's make up something to answer this question, and let me help you study. So you also see this in Khan Academy. So I'm totally blank, but yeah, Khan Academy is also using agents, and not the agents, but train models that are on specific sources. So again, isn't agent needed there? Is that the best use case, like you said, to everything need an agent? But I totally agree that there are business processes, which is, I guess, similar to what I kind of feel the promise of it with software is, because it is a defined process. So if you have other processes, and I guess maybe not our area, sort of our area, but if you look at like legals, things where there's a documented like process of a flow of, way things talk to each other. That's perfectly could be solved by agents just following kind of the general script, and then that agent's autonomy be able to interpret each step along the way and then being orchestrated to put it all together and come up with the answer.
Yeah, and I think even with that repetition, and where we wanted to go with this conversation too, is like, where do humans come into it,
Yeah.
and is there are agents taking over jobs? I don't even think we're at the place right now where agents are fully taking over jobs, because you still need someone to be checking that, and even in the repetition, there's no your I don't know, like, I don't know, are AI agents in the place where they're recommending a better way to do this? Like, I think about it from like an applications perspective, right? Like, if you're reviewing a lot of applications, you're making decisions on applications, that's a fairly repetitive process. And like, once you have rules in place, like, I think that's a really great use case for AI agents, right? Where you're just like getting applications, you're reviewing them. Unfortunately, obviously, HR is a place that is probably going to get impacted by this. And then you're kind of putting them into buckets, and then there's next steps after that. Like, your agent's not going to be able to then review this process and find any loopholes in it. I don't know. Is it going to be able to? I think that's the part where I feel like, as it is with AI, like, it just feels like it can solve every problem, but the reality of it maybe isn't necessarily so. I haven't created an AI agent or had to implement one yet. I'm really hoping to. Like, I keep trying to put my name in to be like, can someone give me like an agentic project? I would love to. Like, we're doing some agentic AI projects right now, and I keep trying to be like, let me help, let me create the proposal. Oh, do you need to review something? Let me review. Like, someone add me to the meeting. But yeah, like, I'm just not even sure like where the kind of line between, I guess, like, AI versus human, but not only that, but is it like, are we collaborating still, or are we in the place where we're competing? I
Yeah.
think we're still so collaborating that it's not necessarily as scary, but I think we need to be on top of it so that when it comes to competition, we understand it enough that we are very competitive.
Yeah, that's the basically the argument of, again, my favorite book on AI, Co-Intelligence by Ethan Mollick, the Wharton professor. Always need the human in the loop, and I think that's an interesting maybe discussion point or contentious point. Is, again, should the process have a human? And this is probably down the rabbit hole of implicit bias in the agents. But using your example of HR, it immediately comes to mind. Yeah, it's a repetitive process. You're screening resumes, 1,000 resumes. And here's an anecdote that I heard from a friend of a friend who had a Google recruiter speaking to her class, that they still manually review all the resumes they get. So thousands of resumes are manually screened. But when you think about it, is the human doing, quote unquote, a better job? They still have their own biases. So in that case, would like an AI be better because it could use a set criteria and look at things faster and more objectively, versus, yeah, even if you're scrolling through 1,000 resumes, you're obviously probably just scanning for keywords anyways, which is kind of what an AI would do. You're looking for schools, impact, projects, relevant tool sets, all criteria or conditions that you could train an AI or give as a set of rules. But yes, the human in the loop, we kind of feel better as society, right? That we know that, okay, I made the decision. You kind of have that, decision points, that I still have agency over the process, that I know better than the AI does. But, do you really know better than the AI does? But, keeping the human in the loop, yeah.
I don't know. Well, the way I see it, like, I think that there are some processes where it just makes sense. Like, when you think about if something breaks in your code or on your website or something, like, your agent's just going to go fix that, or be able to see what's wrong. It's constantly maybe running queries to see if there's any bugs going on, so it'll be able to fix that. Like, I think in areas like that, it makes sense. If you think about like farming, they're in like farming, like, it totally makes sense to have AI make certain decisions. I think, I obviously don't know, like, maybe a farmer would totally disagree with me, but I think that there are some decisions that an AI can just make when it comes to, I know nothing about farming, so I can't even give you an example there. But
But it can
I want to bring
understand
you
more
back.
data, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I want to bring you back to HR in that I think about when it comes to making decisions about people, I always struggle with that because I think of my career, there have been times where maybe on paper I wasn't the best candidate because I
Yes.
didn't have everything, but somebody had a gut feeling about me and took a chance on me and I ended up being like a success because of that. And I think so many times those kind of like success stories in our society come from people that are on the fringe of what our expectation is
Yeah, they
for
don't
like
fit the mold, right?
excellence.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like not, and again, this is not to toot my own horn. Like I'm special, like no, but like I think like we can just say like it's something that we know is like
Yeah.
sometimes the things that are really special and that are magic are not necessarily perfect on paper, which is
Mhm.
why we've talked about this, why networking is so important so that you can actually show like what you bring to the table.
Mhm.
So I think that there's still this like evaluation going on as we're still trying to even see how far agentic AI can go of like what like I feel like I've seen so many examples of just like here it is in all of these different areas, but it's like okay, where's the area that it makes sense and where it doesn't necessarily make sense or it needs to be monitored a little bit more.
Yeah, but then I guess as we were talking about earlier, and just the larger discussion is what's the future though? So we're
Mm,
talking about right now, and that's again to now talk about put on my like futurist hat. So
yeah.
if you look back, 10 years ago, AI wasn't in discussion, but maybe some of the automation was still in the discussion. But now that you have LLMs and now agentic, I mean, yes, it's not getting to artificial general intelligence. It's not totally autonomous yet, but do we
We're
think
getting
so?
there.
Yeah, what would be if it had what would you need? I guess for an AI agent to be able to do to feel okay now you can have some more autonomy. Now you trust it better. I think your use case that you mentioned that's a good way to if you're at home watching this and thinking okay how does it apply to my job, or you think of the checks and balances I think is the big thing in code that's maybe simple to do because unit testing and errors are kind of a way of life of when you're launching a software project you're checking for errors, but if you expand that thinking out to general life like we do it automatically as humans, you kind of error check your body as a see your sense of balance, like you don't think that I need to balance my body, but you're kind of making these decisions like this is like a basic human thing. So if you take the extrapolate that for agents, if it's making using the HR example, if it starts error checking itself or it incorporates more data for like we said, like these fringe cases, these success stories. So if it knew to also, consider future potential,
Yeah.
or other things, if it had these additional dimensions that it could go instead of just right now look at keywords like the ATS that we all hate is you're
Yeah.
just keyword matching right now. That's the current state of hiring is match the most keywords. But again, once it starts reasoning and we get to the computing power, notwithstanding that it can read a resume and kind of interpret like a human does, what was the intention, where is the potential, and this is like maybe I was kind of like interrupting you a little bit with the farming that if you a farmer has these data points in its head because he's an expert or she's an expert farmer on this subject. So when you say, "Oh, I can read the clouds," it's because they've seen that before, so they have a pattern in their mind. But
Mm-hmm.
when the AI, it can analyze. It knows the humidity. It knows the wind speed. It knows the future. It know not the future, but it knows future patterns. It has just so much more data that yes, we had the gut feeling, but the gut is based on humans being flawed pattern recognition. And again, with back to resumes, back to like the real world for a lot of people that are watching this. Right now, I'm just keyword matching the ATS, but once the AI can understand what my bullet point sentence structure of what I accomplished and using a large data set of success stories it's seen Patricia in the past, so maybe this kind of fits the pattern, then would you feel okay to give like version GPT 10 a chance at more autonomy?
Yeah, like I think that is the future, and we've already seen it when it comes to the implementation of AI and how it's like impacting work. Like, what was it? Amazon did layoffs. I mean, obviously, Amazon's going to do layoffs. Chegg has done a bunch of like Chegg. I think, laid off over 300 employees. That's a lot of roles. And so I think when people are evaluating agentic AI, first of all, there's a couple evaluations, right? Like, how can I make my life better because of AI? Like, that's always what I think we hope people ask whenever they're watching our videos and learning about how data analytics and AI is intersecting with our lives. Like, the first question should always be like, how can I improve my life? Because these tools are here to stay, they're not going away. So the first question should be like, how can I improve my life, or how can I be better because of them? So that's the first thing. The second thing is, okay, so now how is agentic going to potentially impact my life? Like, am I in a role that is very process oriented, like very a lot of workflows that can be replaced? And if that's the case, like, how do I make myself invaluable? And I think that's the question that's going to be in a lot of people's minds right now. I don't think it's something that's happening immediately. I mean, if you're in like heavy hitter companies, obviously, yes. But like I'm at a mid-sized firm. Like, I'm in a very small company. We're only getting started on agentic, but I've already kind of identified which roles in our company are going to be impacted by this work. And luckily, so have those people. And so, they've already started having those conversations amongst themselves to be like, okay, like, what kind of changes or what kind of things do I need to think about next? So yeah, so I think that it's coming, it's the future, and it's things, these are the things that people need to start thinking about. And yeah, like, I'm excited for all that's to come for agentic AI, but there's always going to be more questions. Like, obviously, I think we need to end at this point, but like, eventually we should also talk about like the impacts on the environment too, because of AI and agentic. Like, that is a whole other can of worms. I'm not
So if
gonna
someone wanted to get started with agentic AI, would you recommend trying like the new browser for ChatGPT, or do you have another resource that to get a taste of what's possible for
Yeah.
agentic AI?
Actually, I really recommend watching IBM's YouTube videos first, because IBM has these amazing YouTube videos that kind of just helps you understand, like, really understand where the line is between AI assistants and AI agents. Because if we talk about them so synonymously, and like the work is very similar, but I love the way that the IBM videos kind of separate them. I know IBM also has like free certifications and courses that you can do, but I think the first thing is to just like understand, because even in this conversation, like, we were throwing out a couple terms, like you were talking about RAG. I did not bring up any of the terms, so there's a lot, right? There's like Mo, there's APALS or something. Like, there's just so many, ASL, like, there's so many terms out there that are worth learning first, I think, just so that you can understand. And then, yeah, I think if you have a ChatGPT license, which a lot of people have, like ChatGPT Pro, or if they have Copilot Pro, both of them have AI agents. I saw a use case on YouTube that was like, this guy literally created an agent to just draft LinkedIn posts for him for every day. Like, every morning he would have a LinkedIn post ready for him to post on LinkedIn that his agent created for him after reading all of these news articles, and put it in his voice, and he had like prompted it perfectly. So imagine every morning you have this assistant that's like got your daily schedule done for you. Or I saw someone that connected their Google Calendar with like, I think, Notion. And so every time an email came through in their Google Calendar, this agent created a to-do item for them in their Notion. Like, these are small, like, I think that when people talk about AI agents, they talk about like grand scale, like, we're going to scale our company, we're going to change software, we're going to change our website or whatever. These are like little ways that people can get a little bit more comfortable with agents, I think. But agents are here and they're next. So you think about if they're going to impact you, because they 100% are going to impact you.
Yeah, I think that's the
thought.
great way to look at it, is you need to understand it to see how, again, how process. I think the LinkedIn post is like kind of the perfect microcosm of like a job that, I mean, it's also a job like a copywriter, social media manager. Like you said, it is a process. When you break down a lot of these tasks, it's digest this couple articles, think of some through threads that relate to my audience. It's something that you could write down. So again, in your own job, in your own work, in your own life, is there something that's process oriented like this? That would be, like you said, that's a key candidate for potential outsourcing, or at least reduction by putting some of it. So again, where's the value you can add? So if I can do this, can I be better by again doing taking on something else? Where's the value add as the human in the loop? What am I doing to add to this kind of automated process, right? Like, yeah, well, think about it for the value add you as a human do. What's your unique value? How can you orchestrate other tasks and integrate this? So I think, yeah,
And
definitely
I think
yeah. Go
no, I
ahead.
just sorry to interrupt you, but I think that the thing that we also need to make clear is these are all prompts. Like you're literally creating these agents just using an LLM. So it's like
Yeah.
typing into your chat GPT, right? Let's say we have someone who's watching the video that like is not very familiar with AI agents. These are just prompts. You're just writing out that you want this virtual or like this virtual assistant to start doing all of this work for you on its own manually. You're not coding, by the
Yeah.
way. Like this is how simple it is. So let's get it done. Like
Yeah.
let's go and do these things.
It's definitely
Um,
this is your wake up call to start learning even more about what AI is capable of in 2025. And as we
yeah.
near the end of the year, in the future 26 and beyond. So we've had so many advancements just in 25. Can you imagine next year what's the next breakthrough going to be? So,
I wonder. So is that our question? Like, where
that's
do
our
you think
question.
the
Yeah, what do you
future of
think?
agentic AI is?
Yeah, as we, in the fall season, it was just the time change, daylight saving, at least in the US. We had daylight saving, so we're nearing end of year, November, December. What do you
We had it
see?
in Canada too.
Okay, we had Canadian Thanksgiving and American Thanksgiving. Yes, it's that season. But yeah, what's the future hold? What do you think 2026 will bring? We've had so many advancements in just one year with these major companies. We see every news headline about more data centers, more power, mergers, acquisitions. Yeah, what's next? So tell us
Yes.
in the comments below.
Let us know. Like and subscribe.
Thanks for watching and have a great day.